Hey everybody, it's Kaladesh, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing another premiere draft of Kaladesh Remastered. So without further ado, let's get into our Pack 1, Pick 1. We've got a pretty serviceable colorless spell here with the Scrap Trawler, so we could take that to stay nice and open. This is going to let us pick up an artifact from our graveyard every time one of our artifacts dies, as long as the artifact we're picking up has lesser mana value, so you do have to be a pretty artifact-heavy deck, but it's great graveyard recursion. Pretty solid value in general. Draft like the implement kind of cards that are these low mana value artifacts that put themselves in the grave pretty highly to go with it. So we could start with that. That would be the super wide open place to start. There's nothing else super strong here outside of the Weldfast Engineer, which is kind of the opposite direction. Much more narrow, having to be specifically black-red in general, but it is a really powerful ability in a format that has so many 1/1 artifact tokens. I think I'm going to start Weldfast Engineer over Scrap Trawler because while the Scrap Trawler does let us play any colors, it is restrictive in needing to draft a bunch of low mana value artifacts to go with it still. And so I think Weldfast Engineer probably actually technically just about as restrictive as the Scrap Trawler while being slightly stronger. For Pack 1, pick number 2, we've got decent removal with Fatal Push. It's very efficient, but it doesn't hit a wide variety of cards. But what it does kill, it does for a super cheap mana cost. We could also take Aether Swooper as probably the strongest card in the pack. With any other energy providers, it can spit out multiple servos, but even by itself, it is 2 mana for a 1/2 flyer and a 1/1 servo, which is an excellent deal. There's also a Pima Outrider here, which is just a beefy green creature. Nice flexible card with the Fabricate mechanic. I think I'll go Aether Swooper over Fatal Push, even though we've started with the Engineer. I think Aether Swooper's enough better than the rest of the pack to go off color from our start here. And for Pack 1, Pick 3, we have a Chief of the Foundry, which fits into our deck almost no matter what, because as long as we're providing some Servo tokens or Thopter tokens, this is going to beef things up really well. So we could take this. We could also take Cloud Blazer, which is a fantastic value play in blue-white. But again, it's a gold card. We're only playing it in blue-white. There's another copy of Aether Swooper. And there's a first copy of Self-Assembler, which is great top end if you can get 2 or more copies of it. Because then it is just an excellent value play that makes sure that you are slamming some beef on the board in the late game. Hard choice here. I like the colorless options quite a bit for staying open, but Cloud Blazer is very, very good. It's like a 3-for-1. I'll go a little open this time around. I'm going to take the Chief of the Foundry. I think it'll be an excellent addition to almost any deck in this format. And for pick number 4, now we don't see anything great in blue or white, but also nothing great in red or black. The Emerald Bruiser seems fine. So we could take the Emerald Bruiser for aggressive black decks, or we could take a Renegade map for fixing. Tiger is fine top end for green energy decks. It's just massive, attacking as potentially a 6/6 trample. Take the Bruiser here. Pick number 5, Chandra's Pyrohelix is excellent, efficient removal. Sometimes it can even kill 2 things, because you can clear out a little Servo token and a 2/1 or something, if you're lucky. Pima Outrider, another great card here. I think these are the 2 best, but Pyrohelix is much closer to what we're currently doing. Pick number 6. Fourth Bridge Prowler's kind of narrow, but kind of okay. Fire Weaver's fine if you have a ton of artifacts. Implement of Malice is fine. It's 3 mana for a 2-for-1. Your opponent discards a card, you draw a card, so it's kind of like a black version of Divination. 2 cards worth of value, 1 bit of card advantage, 1 bit of card disadvantage for your opponent. Take the Implement, I guess. Pick number 7. Another one of those Tigers for the top end in green. Metallic Rebuke's actually a solid counterspell. Not too hard to have a Servo or 2 sitting on the board in a blue deck so that you can cast this for really cheap with the Improvise ability. Pillar Bug is pretty filler, but it's okay when you've got Weldfast Engineer and Chief of the Foundry buffing specifically artifact creatures. Plus the Emerald Bruiser really wants us to have an artifact on board as well. I'll take the Pillar Bug. Generally, it's much weaker than Tiger or Rebuke, but with Engineer plus Chief of the Foundry incentivizing us to take some artifact creatures heavily, I think it's actually probably pretty okay. This is a very easy Prophetic Prism here, pick 8. Nice flexible card that helps us do some splashing if we need to. Pick number 9, another Implement of Malice. There's a Rush of Vitality, which is actually an excellent combat trick out of black. Particularly disgusting in black-green, where you can have a super big creature and you just gain way too much life off of this swing. But just in any black deck, it's a great trick. I'll take the Rush of Vitality here, seeing as we already have one Implement of Malice. Take a random Fen Hauler for the top of the curve. Get a pick 11 Self-Assembler. Alright, this is going to be a good draft pod for Self-Assemblers. Everyone in the pod saw it and was like, nah, I'm good. Well, that's cool with me. That means I'll try to get 3 or 4 copies out of this draft if they keep flying around as late as they did there. Don't think I'll be playing any of these. Or these. Alright, pack 2, pick 1. We start with a very easy pick. Aethersphere Harvester is a busted vehicle, and being colorless means it makes it into our deck no matter what. It crews for only 1, so even just a measly little servo token can activate this thing, and it's a 3/5 flyer at worst, which is massive. You can also spend an energy to give it lifelink till end of turn, make it really hard to outrace it. Aethersphere Harvester is an insane card, a very easy pick. For pack 2, pick 2. Nothing great in red or black. There's some fine blue energy cards like the Shipwreck Moria and Aether Meltdown that would go pretty well with our Aether Swooper, as well as our Aethersphere Harvester is kind of another energy card. But I think I'm going to take the nice open Daredevil Dragster here. It is a crew 2 vehicle, so a little harder to get it activated, but it juices itself up into a 4/4 stat line, and after it's attacked or blocked twice, you draw 2 cards out of it, which is solid value for that 3 mana entry fee. We will take a Daredevil Dragster, stay open on that one. Pack 2, pick 3, we've got a Chandra's Revolution versus a Daring Demolition. Both very similar cards. They're basically just destroy a creature, but with Chandra's Revolution, you get to lock down a land while you do it. Tax your opponent's mana on their next turn, maybe keep them off one of their colors if you're lucky. It's also a little easier to cast if we do some splashy stuff with Prophetic Prism and play like a 3 or 4 color deck, because the Daring Demolition does require double black. The Chandra's Revolution only requires a single red. The Daring Demolition kills more things, but the Revolution, again, easier to cast, and it does a little bit more than just blowing something up by locking down some mana, so I'll go for the Revolution. Pack 2, pick 4, easy Beaumont Courier. I guess not super easy. Hungry Flames is competition as solid removal, but Beaumont Courier is a great way to just refill your hand when you run out of stuff to do. You just slam this down turn 1, get a bunch of attacks with it as long as you can, and once you've dumped your hand out, you just sack your Courier. Draw 2 or 3 cards if you got 2 or 3 attacks in with it. Great card draw. Pick number 5, Aether Poisoner is pretty great. It's not as good as Aether Swooper or Aether Chaser, but that's because those cards are completely broken. The Poisoner is still pretty solid. Death Touch means it's always pretty much able to get that attack in and spit out the servo that you want off of it. Dawnfeather Eagle is insane at the top of the curve. I've lost to so many Dawnfeather Eagles. I think I've lost to Dawnfeather Eagle more than any other card this week. The card is really good. At the top of the curve, when you've just got a few creatures on board, you get a massive swing and you hold up infinite blockers, and then you still get to chip in with flying damage later. I don't know. I'm still going to go with the Aether Poisoner there. I don't think I'm moving on to white here. Fireforger's Puzzle Knot seems fine. Oval Chase Dragster is very easy to crew, but it's also only 1 toughness, so it basically dies the second it attacks. Trades into anything. Malphus Squad is pretty solid stats for the cost. 4 mana for a 3/1 Menace and a 1/1, or just a 4/2 Menace. I'll take the Malphus Squad. Ooh, I feel like Weaponcraft Enthusiast is pretty great with Chief of the Foundry and Weldfast Engineer. If I have either of those on board, like if I have the Chief of the Foundry on the board, then I'm like, boom, here's a 0-1 and 2/2/2s for 3 mana. If I have a Weldfast Engineer on board, then any servo I get gets to attack as a 3-1, so it's threatening to trade into actual creatures. So I feel like Weaponcraft Enthusiast does look pretty good for this deck. Skyskiff also looks pretty good for this deck. Plenty of 1-power things to crew it. Inventor's Goggles is probably fine, even without a ton of Artificers, and we have 6, which is pretty good. But I was going to say, even without a ton of Artificers, I've seen a lot of board states come to the position where just moving Goggles around is the difference between attacking or not blocking in a board stall. If both of you have like a 3/3 flyer on board, but one of you has Inventor's Goggles, the person with the Goggles is going to win that game. So it's just been even more impressive than I initially thought. Spireside Infiltrator seems fine. We've got a few vehicles for it. We have Aether Sphere Harvester, Daredevil Dragster, and a Skyskiff. Pick 11. Nothing much here. Filler, card draw, or filler creature. We'll go for the filler. Little card draw thing. Go for a Weldfast Monitor, take the artifact creature over the non-artifact creature with those 3 drops that want to keep that artifact count high. Alright, I'm not going to play 3 copies of Implement of Malice. I'm probably not playing Salivating Gremlins either, because I have so much at 3 mana. Look at this giant chunk, but maybe it's better than our one of our other 3 drops. We running over that. Okay, pack 3, pick 1. So we could splash blue. We've got the Prophetic Prism to do so, but I don't think it's necessary. I think we have enough just powerful artifacts and red and black spells to just stick to 2 color here really easily. So I don't think I need another Prism. And if I splash blue, the best card here is Glimmer, which is pretty great. I think it is a little better than Chandra's Revolution, but not a lot. And Chandra's Revolution is the 2nd best card in the pack, so we just take the on-color, really solid removal. Pack 3, pick 2, another Aether Poisoner. Emerald Bruiser also seems fine. About it. Let's take the Poisoner. Let's work on that mana curve now, shall we? So I'm moving all the non-creatures out of the mana curve. Oh, this is such a good Night Market Lookout deck, but I feel like I might have to take another Pyro Helix over it. I guess I don't have a lot of 1/2 mana creatures right now. So I already have 1 Pyro Helix, 2 Revolutions, even if I don't take the 2nd copy. I mean, we can hope the Night Market Lookout wheels, but we have multiple 1-power vehicles, which is what makes the Night Market Lookout so good, just crewing those throughout the game. I'm still going to take Pyro Helix. Night Market Lookout might wheel. Pyro Helix is never going to come back around. Pack 3, pick number 4. I ain't reading all that. Happy for you, though. We'll take a Daring Demolition. It's probably not making the cut over Double Revolution, though. We're not going to run 3 4-mana Sorcery Speed removal spells, so I guess I'm not playing anything out of this pack. Maybe a Built to Smash. We actually have enough artifact creatures in this deck that this would be +3/+3 trample a chunk of the time, but this also probably goes pretty late. I don't know, I guess we take the Demolition, but I'm pretty sure it's getting cut. Pick number 5, we've got a Sweatworks Brawler. This looks pretty good to me. Plenty of stuff to convoke it out, or improvise it out, technically. Artifact so we can tap towards casting it, and it's just a beefy menace creature for the top end of the curve. We need a little more beef in this deck. We were hoping to get Self-Assemblers because we got this one like pick 11, but then we just never saw another copy. Oh, there we go. All right. Now we've got the double Self-Assembler, which is good enough to justify running it. 2 copies of Self-Assembler make them a pretty good 5-drop. 1 copy of Self-Assembler is a horrible 5-drop, so the 2nd is the most important one to pick up. but 3 self-assemblers makes the card like great instead of just good. And then everything after that just makes it completely absurd. So right now, these are good 5-drops. They're a good finisher at the top of the curve. Not quite great yet, with just 2 copies. Inventor's Apprentice for nice early aggro, or a 3rd Pyro Helix. I think I'd like to buff up the curve here. More 2-mana less creatures that are pretty good. So let's grab that Inventor's Apprentice. Wow, and we get a pick 8 Pyro Helix anyway? I guess we would have wheeled that other Pyro Helix. And we didn't wheel the Night Market Lookout, I think. Was it pack 1? I don't remember if it was pick 1 or pick 2. Hopefully it was pick 2 and we get to take the Brawler and then still wheel the Night Market Lookout. No, somebody took it. Emerald Bruiser here. Oh no, I'm completely misremembering these packs and just wheeling absolutely everything I would have wanted. Well, that's good. That's good. It was pick number 3, which means pick 11 is when we would wheel it, and we did. We got the Night Market Lookout all the way back, and that's going to be great in a deck with multiple 1-power vehicles, or crew 1 vehicles. Deck looks sweet now. We really fixed the mana curve. Now we have 3 1-drops, 4 2-drops. That's pretty aggressive. We got the Built to Smash to come back around if we want to use that. Got a Puzzle Knot sitting here for some pinging. We want to use that. All the implements and puzzle knots in the world if we need them. Yeah, we have 39 cards in the main deck right now because so many of what we took was artifacts. That even dancing around a tiny bit with our colors between black, red, and blue, we still got 16 cards to cut when we move to our deck building. So since I am going to call it a 2-color deck in the end, we are going to cut Prophetic Prism. I wouldn't run that in just a 2-color build. We'll also cut this Workshop Assistant. I think it's just pretty small for the mana value, so the death trigger doesn't really justify running it because of how insignificant the body is up front. And it looks like we want to cut some more 3-mana stuff. Salivating Gremlins or Spireside Infiltrator, probably. Again, Chief of the Foundry plus Weldfast Engineer. I think having both of these cards in the deck makes the Weldfast Monitor and the Prakata Pillar Bug, makes both of those a little bit more exciting than a Gremlins or an Infiltrator. I don't think I'm cutting any of my 1 or 2 mana creatures. I just like having this many of them to get a decent little aggressive curve. These Emerald Bruisers might be awesome in this deck. I think we should really consistently have an artifact on board for them. Yeah, these are the only 3 creatures I'd maybe cut. But we have 20 creatures in the deck. If I cut these 3, then we have 17. Uh-oh. So this is going to be a real creature-heavy deck, because we're going to have 17 creatures plus multiple vehicles, because our vehicles are so good. Okay, maybe we do have to actually cut one of the Weldfast Monitor Pillar Bugs here as well. I think those are the next weakest creatures in the deck. That looks like it to me. I think this deck's pretty good at improvising. I kind of like having one like really big top-end card above the self-assemblers even. And yeah, we've got a good amount of artifacts. We're going to have some artifacts sitting on the board as well as some potential servos. We've got like 4 cards that make servos, 2 Aether Poisoners, 1 Enthusiast, and 1 Maulfist squad. So 4 servo producers, plus Beaumont Courier, Chief of the Foundry, 2 self-assemblers, probably about 5 non-creature artifacts if you include the vehicle. So we'll have like 10-ish, 10 or 11 ways to have an artifact on board. Even if I cut these 2, the Pillar Bug and the Monitor, I feel like we can probably improvise a Fenhauler decently enough. It still makes us, I don't know, it is going to make us tap our artifacts instead of attacking with them if we're doing it with servos and Chief of the Foundries and stuff. So it does slow us down a good chunk to throw this down, and it's not that exciting. It's only 1 power and toughness bigger than the self-assembler. Sure, it can't be blocked by artifact creatures, but most of the beefiest creatures in the format are flesh creatures anyway. Like big green creatures, big blue creatures like the 5/6 Gear Seeker Serpent. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't actually play that well against a lot of the best commons in the format, like Gearseeker Serpent. That's a 5/6 out of blue. Green has access to plenty 4/4s and 3/3s and stuff. They can just double block it really easily. This actually doesn't seem like even that exciting, even if you can improvise it well. I am actually going to drop that. So we'll drop that, and then still need to cut probably 3 more creatures, ideally. Go 16 creatures and then 2 or 3 vehicles. I cut down to the Infiltrator. I like the Infiltrator with vehicles combo. This is 16 creatures, 17 non-creatures still, so we cut 10 of our non-creatures now. We have a lot of removal here. I mean, we just have a lot of non-creatures, period, but we've got triple Pyrohelix, Daring Demolition, double Revolution. We've also got the Fireforger's Puzzle Knot, which is basically a massively slow version of Chandra's Pyrohelix, but it works with artifact synergies. I don't think we care about the artifact synergies enough to want to run this over Pyrohelix, just because that raw efficiency is so good on that. So cut the Puzzle Knot for sure when we have triple Pyrohelix, and then I think with 3 big sorcery speed removal spells, we cut one of these as well, at least. Just do not have room to run all this stuff. We'll go full aggro here and go for the Revolution because it slows down our opponent's mana, makes it harder for them to establish a new board state. We probably want to play entirely to the board with this kind of deck, where we're not playing card draw and card disadvantage kind of spells like Implement of Malice and Mind Rots. And then we still have 4 cuts to go. A Rush of Vitality, just running 5 raw, straight-up removal spells here. Yeah, it's kind of hard to have like 5 removal spells, 3 vehicles, and 3 buff spells in the deck. Just don't have room for all of those options. I can cut the Dragster as the slowest of our vehicles since it requires crew 2 and it's not evasive. The Artificer count is at 8. Good lord. Okay, Inventor's Goggles is insane. Maybe we even drop another Revolution and keep the curve insanely low. Drop a land. Rush of Vitality being 2 mana over 1 is something here. We don't have that many like really big creatures where we get a huge lifelink swing, but even just gaining 4 is big. I don't know, 4 cards to cut. I kind of like the idea of cut Dragster, Vitality, Revolution, and then looking at this mana curve, especially with this having Improvise for 3 or 2 mana, cutting a land as well. Just 8/8 split it up, get real aggressive, that Beaumont Courier to refuel. These evasive threats that we can use with any of our 1-power creatures, like servo tokens or just the 1/1 Death Toucher itself. Night Market Lookouts. I like this. 16 land, Rakdos aggro stuff. Yeah, I think I'm going to call it a deck here. Here's a look at the final deck list for today. We're on a black-red aggro deck with some really nice artifact aggro synergies going on. So we've got some great efficient attackers like Night Market Lookout, Aether Poisoners, Emerald Bruisers, and Beaumont Couriers. And some of these get buffed when we have artifacts on board, like the Inventor's Apprentice, being a 1-mana 2/3 if we've got an artifact down, and the Bruisers being a 2-mana 3/1 Menace if we have an artifact on board. So those will just trip in for a ton of damage. Then the rest of these all just work really well with our crew 1 vehicles. The Poisoners can spit out these servo tokens that can crew our vehicles, and the Night Market Lookout gets to crew the vehicles while draining our opponent for life. The Beaumont Courier gets to start crewing instead of attacking once it's too small to get in anymore. And those vehicles are Aethersphere Harvester and Sky Skiff, 2 very efficient evasive threats. Big ways to get a bunch of damage in the sky, and the Aethersphere Harvester in particular being the really powerful, really big vehicle because it's that rare level of power. It's also got the ability to give itself lifelink to outrace our opponent pretty easily. So really nice early creatures and great ways to crew these vehicles. At 3 mana and up, we get to some of our beef. We have Weldfast Engineer. That's going to make any of our servo tokens become 3/1 attackers. This can also work really well with our vehicles, getting even more flying damage in. And Chief of the Foundry works very similarly, where it's buffing up those servo tokens we might be producing, or buffing up our vehicles. We've got the Weaponcraft Enthusiast for more servo production, the Spireside Infiltrator for another card that gets to keep damaging our opponent even if we're just using it to crew vehicles, and then we've got more hard-to-block menacing threats at 4 mana, and the solid card advantage finisher of Self-Assembler, guaranteeing whenever we draw one of these, we have 2 4/4s in a row to top off our curve. So really solid stuff throughout in the deck. The only thing we haven't really mentioned is just the other general non-creature spells you're going to have in aggro, one large removal spell and a few cheap removal spells that we can divide that damage wherever we need it, and then a little bit of ways to buff our small creatures once they're no longer relevant, the big combat trick of Built to Smash for +3/+3, and the Inventor's Goggles for an equipment to move around wherever we need it. Really solid, really consistent looking deck today. Pretty excited to see how it plays out, so without further ado, let's head into the gameplay. Here we are on the play for game 1. We are on a monocolored hand, which is awkward, but we can cast everything in the hand because we've drawn a couple artifacts and all black spells. So we'll keep this one. I think I'll start with the Emerald Bruiser here, because if they don't play a creature, it's going to get in for a lot more damage, and even if they do, we can just cast the Chief of the Foundry this turn instead of an Aether Poisoner. That draw makes me kind of want to play a Chief of the Foundry this turn anyway. I was going to Aether Poisoner first, so then I'd have the servos getting +1/+1 from the Chief a little sooner, but now I can be mana efficient and just play 2 2-drops on turn 4. Get the most of all the mana I'm getting here. So our opponent is on blue, black, and red, the full Grixis over there. There's no reason to pre-combat Aether Poisoner. We don't want to trade Chief of the Foundry for the Death Toucher, so poke for 3, pass the turn, get the Self-Assemblers going next turn, couple 4/4s to top off this curve, as long as the Chief of the Foundry sticks around. There are a couple 5/5s instead. Furious Reprisal to kill both Poisoners, it's fine. Certainly a lot better for us than if they had... God, what is it called? Chandra's Pyrohelix. They could have done that for half that much mana if they had it. I probably should have sent in this Chief of the Foundry here. Because with the way that our hand's playing out, just drawing lands here, we know we're topping off the curve with a couple 4/4s. We don't know how many more artifacts we're going to get to buff up with this thing. So if I just traded the Chief off last turn, that would make sure the Self-Assembler doesn't trade off. But I guess we could just trade off the Self-Assembler as well. That's a fine way to do it. How on earth does this... They're going to make me read this card now. Draw an additional card and remove 2 counters from it. When you discard a card, lose a life. Your maximum hand size is equal to the number of hour counters on it. So they draw a card and their maximum hand size is 5 next turn, but they'll have 6 in it. I don't... They're just going to draw an extra card every turn, but they can't hold any cards in their hand eventually. They'll have... Their maximum hand size is going to be 0 eventually. Alright. They're down to 6. Here's the second Self-Assembler. Sadly, we only saw 2 in our draft pod. If there were more, we probably could have had them, because we got the first one, like, pick 11. Second one, we got... What, pick 6 or something? 6 or 7? Like pack 3, pick 6? So I think we would have gotten like every single one that was opened. These are not the draws I'm looking for. I think I still have to Trump attack with Self-Assembler to put them to 1. Because I have 3 Pyrohelix in this deck. So I think it is worth sacking the Self-Assembler to put them to 1 life. Plus, if they have to discard a Midnight Oil, they just die. And their hand size is big since they only got to play 1 spell last turn. So they have to be able to dump another card here, or they die to their own Midnight Oil. Hey, alright. Okay. Well, Now we have officially read Midnight Oil, and we sort of know what it does for the future, and we'll start this off 1-0, heading into game number 2. Here we are on the draw for game 2. Got that Beaumont Courier into Sky Skiff. So it probably gets 1 or 2 attacks in maybe, but whenever it can't get attacks in anymore, we just start crewing a Sky Skiff with it. Enthusiast into Brawler is kind of fun. We can get some servos to play the Brawler early. But I already have enough artifacts to play the Brawler early off of tapping other stuff, so I guess we're fine. Alright, all I can do here is Sky Skiff and pass. Our Beaumont Courier has been held off. It's a red-white from our opponent with an Aether Torch Renegade. Disgusting. That's a goodbye to Beaumont Courier. So rude. Never mind. Actually, phenomenal draw. Now we play the Chief of the Foundry to get the Beaumont Courier out of range. Crew up a skiff. Send in for 3. I could also attack with the Courier, because the only way they kill it on blocks is by double blocking, and then we get to kill the Aether Torch Renegade. But they can also just block with the Fire Weaver and stop the damage if they don't want to take that trade. I think the trade would be okay with us. Because Courier is unlikely to get more than 1 more attack in before we'd have to sack it. So it's just going to be a draw 2 once we're out of cards in hand. But the nice thing about this is you can declare a chump attack with it and then sacrifice it before it dies to combat damage. So you can get 1 more card than it looks like you can. They're just going to hold their mana up here. So they're probably holding for some instant speed removal. I don't remember the set well enough to play around anything here. I think I'm just crewing the skiff and attacking again. I'm at least not, like, attacking at all on the ground to where I could run into anything super bad. But, like, they might be trying to, like, Pyro Helix plus Renegade, or they might be trying to do, like, a 3 damage instant to kill Chief of the Foundry and then also use Renegade on Courier. Something like that. Okay, they're probably not killing Chief of the Foundry. And 13 life. Actually gonna play the Brawler then. This is a good turn to tap one of their lands though. They've got 3 mana. They missed a land drop because they were on the play. Yeah, no, Revolution is probably actually really punishing here. Because they missed a land drop. Okay, they're going to Pyro Helix the Chief. And use Renegade on it. Yes, okay. So they were going to do that. They just wanted to wait till I tapped out just in case of shenanigans from me. Alright, they hit the land drop this turn, so they still have access to 3 mana red spells. But no white mana up. Quicksmith Genius. 3-2 on the board, Sky Skiff still doing its thing. Play Enthusiast plus Brawler here, since if I just make this a 2-3, it's not really getting it anyway. Just bounces off the Fire Weaver, so I think it's better to do it this way. Next turn, if I just draw another land, we get to draw 2. Because we attack him with the Courier and sack it, and then we'll cast whatever we draw main phase 2. Never mind. Fireforger's Puzzle Knot clears out the Beaumont Courier. They can discard a card and draw a card as well off of this Quicksmith Genius. There's their own Sky Skiff, so now we're in a top deck war because they can just block our flyer every turn. Which is not good because they have a card filtering engine. They can keep discarding extra lands to draw other stuff. Or discarding 11 mana spells. That's another thing they can discard. Aether Poisoner's not horrible, but I can't really cast it until they've used their Puzzle Knot. How do they kill my Sweatworks Brawler? Block it with Fireweaver plus Sky Skiff, then I kill their only flyer, or they block it with just Quicksmith Genius. Well, they have to double block, but they block with Genius plus Fireweaver, and then I kill the Genius. I mean, I guess. I should probably have attacked with Sky Skiff this turn as well. It's not like I'm blocking here. Sure, they could crew and block my Sky Skiff with theirs, but then if they did that, they couldn't block the Sweatworks Brawler. So if I attacked with both, I'd be guaranteed to get some damage in. Alright, I feel like clearing out their card filtering engine is worth it when we are in a top deck war. Yeah, I think I missed out on at least 2 points of damage there. Oh, now they just have a full-on card draw engine. Every time they play another vehicle, an aura, or an equipment, they draw a card. And Aether Chaser's just some more gas. Attacks in really well on this board state because they have that Puzzle Knot. They get to first strike any of my blockers for 2 and then do a 3rd damage before the Chaser takes anything back. Well, that's a great draw. Not super great against the Puzzle Knot, but generally great. So, guess we're playing the Aether Poisoner then, using that as the bait for the Fireforger's Puzzle Knots. Do I have any discard to draw a card in this deck? Don't believe I do. No, so we play this. This Aether Chaser is gonna take over the game. If they keep the Puzzle Knot on board. If they ever lose the Puzzle Knot, then we can just block it with Sky Skiff. But otherwise, that's hitting me for 2 a turn for the rest of the game. No attacks, let's go. We take those. You know, I guess it's not the end of the world now if they Puzzle Knot the Lookout, because if they Puzzle Knot the Lookout, they're not Puzzle Knotting the Sky Skiff in response to me blocking the Aether Chaser. It feels better than doing nothing. Alright, cool. Now they can't ever attack in. At least not till they draw something else. But this board state versus their board state, they can't ever attack in. Oh boy. Alright. That looks like a loss to the top deck war. Put a +1/+1 counter on one of their creatures and tap one of ours when it attacks. To get energy on every creature they play. Yeah, that kills us pretty quick. They've got the energy to get 2 counters on it, so they hit for 4. We go to 15. Next turn it's attacking as 5. It kills us in 4 swings. 3 more swings now. All right. I guess I technically had one more draw step, but we don't have anything that can flip that game back around from there. Here we are on draw for game 3 with a mono-colored hand. But it can cast everything we've drawn so far. Oh, wow. That 1 in 33 at drawing the worst possible draw. Let's go. We've got the double self-assemblers, so they don't do anything on ETB. They're just 5 mana 4/4s. Seems good. And there's a Whirler Virtuoso, turn 3 from our opponent, one of the best uncommons in the whole set. Kill this thing with a Built to Smash, then I play nothing else this turn. They just block with the turtle, and then I play Chief of the Foundry. Alright. Popping off with the Whirler Virtuoso. More energy means another 1/1 flyer. Pyro Helix here. And clear out the 1/1 flyers. Can't really get it on the ground. That's a lot of toughness over there. Let's drop the Brawler first. Inventor's Goggles. And a Glint Sleeve Artisan. So now we need to Pyro Helix the flyers before they put the goggles on them. And we're just in another board stall top deck war. Guess I sent in the Brawler because it has the best opportunities to do something wild with Built to Smash. I actually don't think I Pyro Helix while they're tapped out. I think I wait for them to spend the mana to move the goggles around. Or just wait for them to declare the attack if they're not going to move the goggles. I guess now they could have their own Built to Smash, but that would be weird from the 3-color deck. It's always possible. Another Glint Sleeve Artisan. It's an Aether Poisoner to clear one of them out. Okay. Built to smash to clear one out feels good. Really just waiting for one more mana. The self-assemblers will be 5/5s, which are big enough to block any of these things really well. And then we're just looking for our flying vehicles. Draw 2 is really nice in a board stall like this. Alright, well, no more attacks here, really. I guess I can set in the poison or trade into a servo and get a 2/2 servo off that attack. Just play a Malphus squad and get a 2/2. Well, that is an absolute mirror breaker. Cast this and the courier then. Now I've got a 4/6 flyer to chip in with every turn. Just another land from our opponent for now. Let's see if they've got a way to clear this out. Not looking like it. It's a huge hit. Let's drop a self-assembler and shuffle my library for fun. Revoke privileges. Ooh, so they had sorcery speed removal that could only target creatures, so it wouldn't work on the Aether Sphere Harvester. Feels good for me. Rawl's expertise. Pick everything back up, recast the Virtuoso for free, so they get another Thopter out of it. At least it doesn't kill the Harvester, but it is annoying. It does slow us down a good chunk. Because it's going to be summoning sick this turn, and they're going to have a chump blocker for it. The turn after that, Pyrohelix means they won't. We'll shoot the chump blocker and shoot their face, probably. Pyrohelix in hand, maybe it's worth actually just sending in the menace cards, getting damage in. Yeah, screw it, let's get a beefy board here. So we can maybe even just crack in with the whole team instead of just the Harvester. Try to find lethal somewhere. Surprised by them producing a Thopter right now. Interesting. Well, now I don't have to Pyrohelix the Thopter, I can just do this. And then now we have the energy, get 2 more servos out of this Aether Poisoner if it gets 2 more attacks. Four blockers. The menace cards are all gone. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take 1, 2, 3. I guess we're not attacking on the ground here. I mean, I'll do it with the Death Toucher. And get another creature. But otherwise, not really. Alright. Pretty boring couple of games there, honestly. Kind of dull. Kind of, I don't know, just lackluster for the most part. It was just basically board stalls where we were in a top deck war and we lost in the last top deck war, then we won in that top deck war. Our opponent found their big flying evasive bomb to kill us with for our first loss in game 2, and then we found our big flying evasive bomb to kill our opponent with for our second victory in game 3. Just the 2 other ends of the table, really. But we are 2-1 heading into game 4. Ooh, here we are on the play for game number 4. This is an aggressive start. I guess I don't get the servo till turn 3 to buff the apprentice, so not as aggressive as it looks, but it's still a very nice start. Inventor's Goggles, turn 1 from our opponent. Ooh, alright, well that is a really good draw. Now the Chief of the Foundry. Make that servo a 2-2. We'll do it post-combat because I have 2 different tricks I could use if I need to. Yeah, we're going to need to use a trick because that's a 3/3 first striker. If they don't block, we obviously don't do anything, but if they do block, then we are going to kill the heck out of the Aether Chaser. Which is not the worst, because it means I still have a Pyro Helix up during their turn, just kill whatever they cast. And then I get to have made use of all 3 of my mana for the turn cycle. And then just slam down Chief of the Foundry. They're just playing a 1/1. I think I still want to stay wildly aggressive and mana efficient. I'm just going to use this. And then I Revolution the next threat. I get all the damage in. They're down to 11. They are stuck on 2 mana, which is huge. That means the Chandra's Revolution is going to be really, really nasty. Alright, here it goes. Yeah, there's the concession from our opponent. They just kept a 2-lander and got mana screwed. We had a really aggressive start to super punish that. It's just a nasty game all around. We are now 3-1 heading into game number 5. Alright, here we are on the play for game number 5. We've got Goggles onto the Poisoner. Not the greatest Artificer to put it onto, but moving it to the Maulfist squad for free later should be really nice. Got a good top end here with the Self-Assembler. Solid curve all around. Opponent has a great start to the game. The Merchant's Dockhand is a very nice card draw engine, if they got nothing else to do. Does require quite a bit of mana to play around with it. But repeatable card draw engines are just nasty when you get into a board stall. The Filigree Familiar they can chump block with and draw a card. Probably should have moved my goggles over last turn. So I had a 2-3 up to block the dock hand. And then I could maybe attack with a 2-3 and a 1-1 Death Toucher this turn. But now we just make the Maul Fist a 4-3 Menace. Make another Servo. 4 Toughness Menacer does seem like a pretty legit stat line, but I don't want this to get shot down by like a 1-for-1 removal spell and not leave anything behind, so I'm still going to go for the Servo. I think they're going to have 4 mana up here, so they can probably just cast any creature and triple block the squad, and I still only kill 2 of their 3 creatures that they block with. So even with a 4th toughness, I think it's probably only killing 2 creatures on the trade. Regardless. Oh. Well, it's a good thing this Malphus squad is built to smash. But I guess even with built to smash, it trades into both. It doesn't survive. That's still the play? Maybe not. Maybe it's self-assembler time. Take a turn off here. I've already got solid attacks, or solid blocks. I think I can poke for 1. And I'm cool with any trades here. Alright, rip that card draw engine out of here. I have Pyrohelix built to smash held up. They've got their own potential counterspells and stuff. This might not play super well, but we've got double tricks, so we'll see. Probably just instant speed removal to kill self-assembler in response, which is sad, but not horrific. Yeah. That is fine. We still hit for 6. Actually, don't even lose the self-assembler this way. We just have to recast it soon. Pyrohelix whatever other blockers they play so we can keep jamming in with Menace. Whirler Maker, that's 4 mana to make 1/1s with it. Ew, 0 for reach. Well, now they're blocking the Menace. Double Pyrohelix, interesting. So I can cast double Pyrohelix this turn. So when this dies, they draw a card, and they put it back to their hand. We really don't want the familiar to actually die then. Shoot, this is really annoying. The token producer to stall things out. I could 2-for myself to kill the Sky Gate so I can get the Maulfist squad in there. But then they Whirler Maker and they double block squad next turn. Could recast Self-Assembler. It's not going to jam through Filigree Familiar. Oh, this sucks. This seems real stable if they just start toying with that thing. I'm just going to start jamming down self-assemblers. And we're just trying to draw into some of our vehicles. And grind the game out with Night Market Lookout's Life Drain, I guess. Another Menace card is definitely good. I need 1 more mana, though, to play another Self-Assembler and this Menace card. Because this only costs 1, but this still costs 5. Okay. So I'm just going to play this. Shuffle my deck for fun. Maybe we can just get a wide enough attack soon. Alright, I don't like that. Well, I mean, I think we're doing our thing then. don't actually want to kill the familiar because of the life gain when they recast it. I think I'm shooting like this. 3 blocks, and then I'm shooting them in the face for 2 next turn after we attack with everybody to find lethal. Because this is like 6 damage. They go down to 4. I only have to hit them for 2 damage next turn to kill them. Oh, they go down to 3. So I just have to tap Night Marker Lookout and we're there. Uh-oh. They're looking at the Night Marker Lookout. In their graveyard, pick up a Merchant's Dock Hand. Oh, I think they misclicked. Because this can pick up an artifact card and a creature card from grave. But they only picked up Merchant's Dock Hand. They wanted to pick up a Poisoner and a Dock Hand. And then I think they just got tilted on the misclick. Alright. Even if they got both back, they'd have 3 blockers up. Double block there, block there. Yeah, maybe that was just they're dead on board still after that, so they scoop anyway. Alright. I was getting nervous there. I was definitely getting nervous, but we just kept drawing Pyrohelixes, so that really, really helped us get the reach that we needed to get past their stuff and find the last few points of damage. So we are 4-1 now at that break-even points, at a positive win rate no matter what. Solid, solid draft today, but we'll see how far we can take it as we head into Game 6. All right, here we are on the play for Game 6. We really need to draw land here, but at 3 mana we can actually play these brawlers off of the goggles, which is a really good combo, because they improvise to cast them, and then the brawlers get auto-attached by the goggles, which is really nice. Poisoner's probably like our best non-land draw on the deck, but we're still definitely looking to find a land. But now if we don't find the land, we can still use our servo and our goggles to start casting the brawlers, which is going to be excellent. So I don't know, it might even actually be better that we didn't hit a land here. Who knows? This is pretty gross. Just all spells still. Make sure we still have threats for days. Not on the defensive here. I will trade off an Aether Poisoner to get a 1/3 out of the way. But no blocks from our opponent. Well, you know what's up here. They have the counterspell? Nope, just scrying. Maybe they do also. Metallic Rebuke. I have not seen a lot of Metallic Rebukes this time around. I think that card seems underrated. Just because I've literally not run against it a single time, but it is genuinely a pretty good counterspell for the format. Okay. Yeah, I mean, 2 lands seems more than enough for the way this is playing out. It's kind of spicy. I mean, now I have an actual 3-drop that I just don't get to cast, period. But I still don't really feel like I'm hurting for not having drawn any lands. Like, we are just jamming. Inventor's Goggles, Sweatworks Brawler is such a gross combination. Tapping for the Brawler with the goggles and auto-equipping. It's just so good. Well, I've got triple Pyrohelix, so y'all know what's up. Aether Swooper. Gives them a servo if they get an attack off with it. Well, they only have 1 energy right now. They'll need to play another energy card. Okay, now I'm getting a little bit annoyed at the lack of mana now. Wow, that's an incredible response. That is very much the card you want to have there. Permanently kill the token and draw a card in response to the combat trick. Riparian Tiger. They're at 6. If I can put them to 2 and get there off just Pyro Helix. Just 1 Pyro Helix even. Oh, come on. What the heck? So they double block a 4-5 with a 4-4 and a 2-5. I kill the 4-4 and that's it. Got 4 damage to their face in hand. Which isn't quite enough. Because Night Market Lookout hits them for 1. I have to hit them for 5. To kill them off Night Market Lookout. Kill that, and then they only block 1 of the 2. They double block this. I get to hit for slightly more. But it's kind of the same damage, right? Because I shoot them for 2, or I shoot that for 1 and them for 1. So like same damage either way, but at least this way I'd keep the lookout. I think I'd just play another menace threat. And that's all we got here. We're just trying to draw like a vehicle for lookout or something. We just need to find 2 damage. Uh-oh. Are they just gonna kill me? Is Hunt the Weak on the Brawler? Oh, it's so much worse. Mm-hmm. Well, that's super bad. I think you are too late, my friend. They only have 8 power on their board, though. But I'm 1 damage off. +1/+2 means it's gonna have 3 toughness, which they can just still double block and kill it. I guess the only hope now is we top deck exactly a mountain. Oh, hello, Arena. Really? I'm already a little annoyed. That will tilt me off the face of the earth if Arena disconnects me here. Oh, hello? What? Oh, come on. What? So I guess it's a tie. I think we had a chance there, and it would have been really cool if it played out well for us. Because we could have played our haste creature and then equipped the Night Market Lookout with the equipment. So then in order to kill the Night Market Lookout, they'd have to double block it, which I think they would want to do. And that would make it so they double block Night Market Lookout and take 2 damage total. 1 from Night Market becoming tapped, and 1 from our 1/1 haste hitting them in the face. That would put them down to 4 life. So as long as they didn't have a combat trick to kill us on the crackback, if we top decked a mountain, we could then double Pyro Helix their face. So it would have been a pretty spicy way to end that game, because it would have required top decking like perfectly, but that's kind of where we were at that point, because we just missed the lands so long. That was like our only route to victory, to outracing that gigantic tiger. So I really wanted to see how it would play out there, and if we would have drawn like an absolute champion. We could have been the Mad Lads that game, but I guess Arena just went a little goofy there, and it's a tie. So I guess we're 4-1-1 heading into game number 7. All right, here we are on the play for game number 7. I kind of feel like I have to mulligan. Yeah, every land after the 5th in this deck is just flooding out, and the odds of hitting more lands is pretty dang high when we're going to play at least like 7-8 turns most games. Yeah, take a mulligan here. All right, this is much better. It's actually really gross. Yeah, let's keep this. I don't even know what I'd get rid of. Maybe the goggles? I like Courier into Emerald Bruiser as a curve a lot. And then turn 3, what, Lookout plus Pyrohelix or Goggles plus Pyrohelix? It's a hard choice. I don't have any vehicles for the Lookout yet, but I also don't have anything great to put the Goggles onto, but it can help keep these two creatures a little bit more relevant. A little bit beefy. Yeah, I'll ditch the Lookout, I guess. And the Beaumont Courier, if it doesn't immediately get removal spelled, can help dig us out of the card disadvantage of taking a mulligan here. And Weldfast Engineer was a real nasty draw. This is the first time we've drawn it today, and it looks like it's going to be great on this board. Do have to hit the third land, but then it'll be great. I'm going to drop a Goggles here. Both of these are Artificers, so I would say yes. The one issue with this is now I don't Pyrohelix whatever they play this turn. But if I hit any land, then I just snap Goggles onto something. Plus that 2/3 is too big for Pyrohelix anyway, so that panned out pretty well. Okay, so we attack with just the Menacer here. Let's play the Engineer. I think I'd rather get that on board than the Enthusiast. If I get the Enthusiast on the board first, though, then I Engineer up a Servo next turn and attack with that as a 3/1. Yeah, actually, it's better to do it the other way. 2 Servos. Get the free attach, hit for 3. Oh, it can't block artifact creatures. Oh, the flavor text. Oh, the courier should have sent in. I love how I realized like the second that I clicked done or clicked OK on the attack. Yeah, I missed out on a 4th card under the courier. Looks like it might not matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. They just kill the courier anyway. But I did miss out on 1 point of damage, and that could definitely be relevant. But yeah, I wouldn't have gotten any cards out of it regardless. Down to 6. I'm not going to kill a Hinterland Drake, because the only thing it's blocking here is Enthusiast anyway. So I'm going to hold Pyrohelix up and kill whatever they play next. Oh my god. That's insane. It's a really good rare. It's like a one-sided board wipe, and then you cast something for free. Well, at least we got a good Pyrohelix target, but that was completely filthy. Oh, hello there. You are quite a good draw. They have nothing on board that can block a Sky Skiff, because it is a flying artifact. Shipwreck Moray hits the board. They've only got 1 mana untapped, and this turn we would have lethal. If I remembered that Hinterland Drake could not block our artifacts, this would have been the lethal turn. I guess it still is. Never mind. Because I forgot we have Goggles to move. Well, no, it's 5 damage. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It would have been lethal if we attacked with the 1/1 earlier. But instead, we buff the Bruiser up with the Goggles, I think. Makes them use 2 energy to get the Moray to kill the Bruiser. Well, no, they still just make it a 2/3. And I kill one of those 2. Okay, I was correct in my initial assessment. We would have killed them this turn if I attacked with Beaumont Courier earlier. Because we could have Goggled the Sky Skiff and taken them from 5 to 0 instead of 6 to 2 like we're doing. I think I'm killing the Moray. Because the more annoying blocker in terms of its flexibility of moving that power toughness around. Brawl. Brawl does not block a sky skiff. Okay. It's gonna be a 4/5 engineer. That feels safe enough. Oops. Well, it's a good thing I have enough mana to not do this the dumb way. That was obviously a very silly misplay. But I have nothing in my hand, so it pans out fine. Just spend so much more mana than we need to. So they need instant speed removal for the skiff. And they've got it. Alright. That ain't good. Metallurgic summonings. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, make a big XX artifact. It doesn't have flying or anything. Okay. Force the chump then. I missed out on a point of damage again. This has been a sloppy game. I would have hit them for one more if I had attacked with Enthusiast as well, because they still would have had to just trump the Weldfast Engineer to not die. Alright, there's the concession from our opponent. Really, really sloppy game of Magic. Just lucky enough to have the evasive threats to follow through. It all started with that not attacking with the Beaumont Courier when the Hinterland Drake couldn't block it anyway. We would have killed them like 3 turns ago by now. But then spending so much extra mana on the goggles when it was the right play to crew and then move the goggles to the engineer instead of move to engineer, move back, crew, move to engineer like we did. That was silly. Yeah, and then we lost an extra point of damage last turn as well. They had 1 blocker. They would have had to chump block the 3/3 no matter what, so I could have moved the goggles to Enthusiast and still hit them for 1 and then played the skiff. Put them at 1 life there. Alright. Silly stuff, but just really high quality spells from our deck make up for it. Just the power level of the stuff we managed to draft, and we're now 5-1-1 in the money no matter what with a very positive win rate. Heading into game number 8. Here we are for game number 8. This mana is definitely not keepable. 1 red spell, 3 black, all red sources. That's a mulligan. This hand's pretty good. Goggles seems extra awkward in this one. I think I'm just ditching Goggles. We need to keep all the lands when I've got a 5-drop in the hand. And the curve starts at 3 mana as well. Alright, there's the Goggles from our opponent. We find a Spireside Infiltrator for another 3 mana option. There's a Reckless Fireweaver. Our opponent's on red-green, and that is an Artificer, so it's a 2/5, which stacks up really well against our removal spell and our Infiltrator. It's a good stat line. It's a Fabrication Module. Really slow card, but it can give them a lot of +1/+1 counters, and this is one of the slowest hands our deck is capable of. So they have plenty of time to dirtle around with that and just amass a board state that's much larger than anything we can produce just from all the +1/+1 counters. So, could be really nasty. Probably a potential game winner here. Just a big +1/+1 counter mana sink like that. Okay. Enthusiast with Foundry is real fun. I think I will play that over the Spireside Infiltrator. And then I've got a 0/1 to chump block with as well. I do like that the best they could do last turn was just spend 4 mana for 1 +1/+1 counter. Glad they didn't have like a beefy 4-mana creature to play that turn. Alright, yeah, this is good for us. They're missing spells here. Buys us time to get our board state super strong. I guess I can already... No, I can't. Never mind. This is instant speed. I was going to say I could already attack in and then revolution post blocks, but I can't. That's a 7 toughness. It's a 4/7 here. Yeah. Well, self-assembler it is then. And we definitely still play all our lands for turn. Because if I get to 7 mana, I can double spell with these. So it's probably play a land and self-assembler next turn. And then turn 7, play both of these. They just pass turn again. I think I attack with everybody because they're going to just kill my 5/5. Or take 9 damage. And if they kill my 5/5, I revolution the Fireweaver and lock down their forest and they play nothing next turn. Feels like the kind of board state where if they just lose this one creature they keep putting the module counters onto, then they can't do anything without drawing another land, from the looks of things. They go for the kill on Chief of the Foundry, fair enough. Nothing I can do with Revolution then. Hit for 9 on board this way. Oh, and they have the sparks for that one? Well, that plays real poorly. Another Fireweaver. We might have to just wait for our flying vehicles again and do absolutely nothing till then. Well, that is the mana for Engineer plus Revolution. They don't have the mana for Fabrication modules, so Fireweaver is straight up a 4/7, that's all it is. So I can Revolution the 4/7 Fireweaver with a 3/1. If they block and they don't have an instant. Alright. That was really good for us. Are they still stuck on 4 mana? That's like getting to the really annoying point for our opponent. They probably have some double green spells or something, double green creatures. Yeah, they're still stuck on 4 mana. At least it means they have plenty of spells to cast to try to keep up, but... Right, it is anyone's game. We do have to hit gas here. If I hit a land clump, we are very dead. It's a Cultivator's Caravan. They don't have the power to crew it yet, but that is more mana for them, which is definitely still good. We've got 2 mana up. They can just slap the goggles onto the Fireweaver so that Infiltrator doesn't attack in well. Yep. So Infiltrator just gets eaten up if I send it in. There we go. That is straight fire here. It's actually so good I think I do attack with everybody, because if they take the free kill on the Infiltrator, they're taking 6 damage and going to 4. Which leaves them astronomically close to dead to a flyer like the Aether Sphere Harvester. So basically sacrificing Infiltrator to deal 6 to them here. And that puts them in range of any of our 3 copies of Pyro Helix if we draw any of those. If we draw our goggles, but I think that's on the bottom. No, this was not a game we mulliganed. Oh wait, no, I shuffled with Self-Assembler. But yeah, so if we draw our goggles or a Pyro Helix or anything like that, that's at least 4 cards that'll just kill our opponent next turn. if they don't play a reach creature or a flyer. I guess instant speed removal would work as well. They've shown us a lot of that. Double Welding Sparks. Third copy could kill the Aethersphere Harvester. There's a puzzle knot to kill the 1/1 servo to get rid of one of my cards that could crew the Harvester. And then if they have a way to kill the Self-Assembler as well, then we have no way to crew the Aethersphere Harvester. I'm not going to crew Harvester in response to them shooting it, because that means that it can die to more removal spells. Sorcery Speed, Destroy a Creature style removal. Alright, Imperial Voyager is the play. A 2/3 flying trample that gives them energy when it hits us. Swamp is a bad draw, but we've got more lands in our deck. Obviously, we're running 16 of them. So we send in and put them to 1 or get them to chump block with the Voyager, either of which is good. Let's gain the life, so it's harder for them to find a kill on the crackback. Alright, 1 life to 15. There they go, they found land number 5. They already found mana number 5 thanks to Cultivator's Caravan, but there is the 5th land from opponent, and Verdurous Gearhulk is the play. Well, now I have to hit Chandra's Pyrohelix, because that's an S+ tier bomb. They just slam a bunch of counters onto the Voyager, so the Aethersphere Harvester can't attack through it. Yikes. Alright, so we have 3 Pyrohelix and 1 Night Market Lookout, so it's still 4 insta-lethal draws. A little less than a 1 in 5 chance. And we have like 1 draw step to get there. Alright, 2 draw steps. If they don't attack this turn, then we have 2 draw steps to get there. Alright, draw number 1. Yikes. Pass the turn, see if we survive this swing, and if we do, we've got 1 more turn to draw any of our 4 insta-lethal outs. Actually might be 5 outs, because I think Built to Smash... No, Built to Smash wouldn't get there. It'd be a 6 power trampler against a 6 toughness creature. Okay, they're giving us another draw step. I think we would have it regardless. Even if they attacked with everybody, I don't think we're done on board. Let's take that next draw step and cross our fingers. Still 4 cards that'll insta-lethal our opponent. Ooh, baby. Well, maybe they will give us another draw step. This time we are just dead on board if they send the team in. Already got a vehicle, so I don't have to hold full control to bluff things. Oh boy. Try 2, draw 2 now. That gives another +1/+1 counter to the board thanks to Fabrication Module. This looks like them going for lethal. Maverick Thopterus does not save them against any of our 4 cards that insta-kill them still. But it does shoot me for 2 more, so it makes me more likely to die here if they send in the team. Yeah, they just crew the caravan and we're so dead on board. That That's really disappointing. We just hit a terrible clump of draws in the very end. One of the classic games that shows it is better to be mana screwed than mana flooded in the end game. Because once you get out of your mana screw, it just means you have so much more action than your opponent. Whereas if you flood out, it means you just have no action in the end. So many cards that could have just killed them. Alright. We are now 5-2. I guess technically 5-2-1. Heading into game number 9. Here we are for game number 9 with our fashionably late Chandra's Pyrohelix. That was our lethal finisher last game. We could have drawn any of our 3 copies and it's like, here I am in the opening hand in the next game. RIP. Opponent is on the play. Luckily they've got a slow start though, just a Prophetic Prism turn 2. So we'll just drop our Sky Skiff that lets us play Brawler turn 3. Could also just play the Chief of the Foundry and smack them for 3 in the sky if we want to do that instead. Hinterland Drake. Immediately poke them for 3 or just get my Menace creature down? I think I'm just going to get my Menace creature down. Next turn I get to play another Menace creature with the Maul Fist squad, and I get to crew the Sky Skiff with the servo that it makes. And we can hit for a lot of evasive damage. It's another Whirler Maker. Played against that card earlier, and we won. Let's see if we can keep that record going. But it is a real nice mana sink if you can stall out the games. Let's try to be aggressive here and make sure they can't do that. Ooh, I should never have said how underplayed Metallic Rebuke is, because that was a very good rebuke. Our turn would have been so great if that squad resolved, and it is significantly weaker when it gets countered by a 1-mana counterspell. Alright, I'm no longer complaining about not seeing Metallic Rebuke or having Metallic Rebuke be underplayed. Oh, that is miserable. Now there's a Quicksmith Rebel on the board to turn the Prophetic Prism into a machine gun, so we have to spend the turn on Pyrohelix. I guess I've got the mana to actually kill this Rebel and also cast another spell, so it's not a bad turn at all. But their deck is terrifying. Quicksmith Rebel, just gonna shoot us for 2. Alright, let's go. I'm gonna hit for 1 less damage this turn by playing the Enthusiast instead of the Chief of the Foundry, but it means that I hit for significantly more damage next turn, potentially, because then Chief of the Foundry is buffing both of the servos and the Sky Skiff on our next attack. Tezzeret's Touch. Just turn the Whirler Maker into a 5/5. Alright, that's a way to use it. Still going for the race. I respect that. I will trump with a 0/1. I don't think the race is going to be favorable to them unless they have some really explosive card in hand, because this is a lot of damage. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I hit them for 10 or I hold up a blocker, but I take 7 on board. They need to be able to deal 5 more. So they need to go like Swamp and Tezzeret's Touch their Prism as well to kill me. I'm going to put them to 2 to make it basically impossible for them to survive 2 turns. And we're just going to see if they have the way to kill me. 5 extra damage this turn? It can't just be another Tezzeret's Touch because they don't have the black source. Alright, Pendulum of Patterns gain 3. Like, they do have the black source thanks to the Prophetic Prism, but then the Prophetic Prism would be tapped. Okay. So they do... Were they dead there? I don't know, they were over it regardless. I'm not going to do the math. I'm not going to do the math. I will just take that victory and be cool with it. We are 6-2-1 now. Not quite at 7 wins, but we might be able to get there. Really lucky draft overall because the one game that we tied in was more likely to be a loss than a win. It still could have been anyone's game. We could have top decked the mountain the next turn and tried to kill them off double Pyro Helix, but that would be only if we didn't die and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, real lucky draft overall, getting all the way to the final battle, and we got to play an extra game Magic. We're heading into round number 10 instead of round number 9. That doesn't happen super often. Not a lot of ties on Arena, but sometimes something glitches up and you get to play an extra game of Magic. Here we are for the final game of this draft with an excellent hand. The biggest issue with this hand is that it doesn't have a lot of creatures to crew these vehicles, but these vehicles are incredible. So we draw into like any creatures and we're living the dream. So there's the Sky Skiff. We get to play the Infiltrator and crew it up and slam immediately, or we just play the Aether Sphere Harvester. Set up the bigger vehicle immediately. This is a bit weird, but I'm going to go for the Aether Sphere Harvester. Then we get to play Malphus Squad and crew both. And just try to outrace them with the big lifelink of the Aether Sphere Harvester. It's 5 damage in the sky every turn. They are a blue deck, so they can easily have some of those common flyers like the Aether Swoopers. But again, the lifelink on the Aether Sphere Harvester is going to go a real long way towards outracing our opponent. And then we get to slam down a 4/4 the turn after that, as long as we hit a land in the next 2 draw steps. And that's going to lock down the ground for us. Even could kill something with a Chandra's Revolution if we want. This looks really good all around. And I think thanks to the lifelink, I am just fully racing here. $15-15. There's a Whirler Virtuoso. Again, incredible premium uncommon. It's out a 1/1 flyer all by itself. If they get any more energy, it's going to be even more gross. It's a Pyro Helix to kill the 1/1 flyer, but I don't have the mana to do that and anything else this turn, which is rough. I think I still need to just Pyro Helix here, because we can Pyro Helix their 1/1 flyer and their Aether Chaser, which is pretty nuts. If I Chandra's Revolution something instead, then on turn 5 it's possible to play Infiltrator plus Pyro Helix, which would be incredible. I probably have to just be on the defensive for a turn here, even though it's kind of annoying. Yeah, I think I actually just am on the defensive for a turn. I want to keep racing so desperately. My aggro heart tells me to do so, but if I just hold off, they don't even have particularly good attacks on board. Wow, that is 6 energy for 2 1/1 flyers. That's gross. And the Aether Swooper with the goggles on it. This is just the wide open version of the blue-red energy deck. It's going to be a hard battle. Well, now if I don't Pyro Helix, done nothing with my mana for the turn, which is rough. I kind of think I have to, even though I'm killing a 1/1 instead of a 1/1 in the sky. And then I have the mana open to do the Revolution on the Swooper. Almost no point in killing Virtuoso generally, because like if I kill it, they just respond by making the 2 things. But then at least when they draw more energy cards, they don't make more flyers. So I guess it's probably better to kill that than the Aether Swooper. Play Goggles plus Infiltrator. Start pinging them for 1 damage every turn. Now let's just get rid of the Virtuoso. So they can't top deck into more 1/1 Thopters. It's only 1/1 servos. Well, they only made one of them. Keeping that energy for Aether Theorist plus Aether Swooper. Scry 1 plus make a 1/1 on the ground. Yep. Oh my lord. The most open of blue-red energy decks. The draft pod was allergic to good cards. That's a pretty big draw. That is a pretty massive draw. Aether Sphere's a 4/6. They've got 2, 3, 4 power over there. I'm gonna do it. If their last card is like Welding Sparks, that's gonna kill Aether Sphere Harvester at any point anyway. I think I should just cash in this energy on Lifelink, because that's like the only thing in my deck that uses energy. And we don't know if we're going to be able to get any other attacks off with the Harvester. We just don't know when they're going to top deck removal for it. So just cash it in instantly here while we still can. Alright. We seem to be winning, and Built to Smash really helps if they didn't just scry into an instant. They probably did, though, because they held all their mana up here. Well, at least I get to damage them when I crew. But I imagine Harvester's about to die. I guess we'll see. I'm just going to attack with it, and if they don't do any tricks, I won't do any tricks. And then if they do a trick, maybe Built to Smash is enough to save it against whatever they're trying to do. Scry again. Scry to the bottom. Okay. Are they going to kill Chief of the Foundry in response so that the Aether Swooper doesn't die or something here? Are they doing 4 damage to the Harvester? They're going to pick up the Aether Swooper and pick up the Chief of the Foundry. So I don't deal any damage this turn, but I also don't lose the Harvester. I don't lose anything. I mean, that's fine, right? I could Built to Smash just to trample and put them to 4. I'm not going to, though. I think I'm saving this for where I'm clearing something out. Quicksmith Genius. Discard a card and draw a card every time an artifact hits the board under their control. But for now, it looks like they're still really just scrying off the Aether Theorist. Well, we know what we're doing. They're probably dead next turn. Off of Built to Smash somewhere. We'll be at 8. So we could get really aggressive and crew both vehicles. Have the Aether Poisoner on board to help do that. Scry to the top. Send in the Swooper, draw a card, discard a card. Looks like the play. I could crew and block here, blocking their 2-4 with a 3-4. I think that's fine. This is a blind draw. I'm pretty sure they didn't scry that card. So I think we just stop the damage here without losing the skiff to anything. Oh, you don't want to move Inventor's Goggles after you've taken damage. RIP. Aether Swooper. Could self-assembler, but I'd rather hold up a built to smash. Get that free equip. And then crew. Crew. See if we built a smash for lethal here. They've got one card in their hand. It was a blind draw. They're just going to scoop. So I think if we attack like this, that is 2 different ways they can chump block, and that's all they can do. I guess the way that I did it, there's no chance of getting lethal because they have to chump block one. So this is like the best way to play if you have no tricks in your hand. If I had the trick in hand, I guess it was actually better to put the goggles onto the harvester, and then maybe they'd swooper block the skiff and let the harvester in, and then we give it +3/+3 and trample over for victory. But this way, whichever 4-power creature they block, I only trample over for 3 damage, and I hit for 7 total. And they're at 1. Alright, I found the wrong line, but it's still a good line because it still forces a chump here if they don't have interaction. Okay. Pretty lucky draft overall. We just got a lot of mileage out of that really busted rare, the Aether Sphere Harvester. I mean, that last matchup, I think our opponent's deck was generally better than ours. Just a really well-drafted, really synergistic and tight blue-red energy build. They were definitely in the right color pair. It seemed pretty open based on what they were playing there. But some games are just like, who would win? Super well-drafted, super tight, super synergistic deck, or one Aether Sphere Harvester. Not saying that we drafted terribly here. Our deck is very synergistic. It's tight, it's aggressive, it's streamlined. Our deck is also very, very good. I just really liked our opponent's deck in that final round. Maybe I just like blue-red too much. But yeah, we played against some really good decks from our opponents, but we just got some really good draws. Definitely had some opponents that got mana screwed, some that got mana flooded. That helped us as well. But I think also this deck is just incredibly powerful. I think we drafted pretty well and got rewarded with some really great rares, like the Aether Sphere Harvester and the Beaumont Courier. I don't feel like any of our success here was gameplay related, though, because there were a lot of small punts running around, and the majority of those games win and lose. So mainly just a draft that I think we drafted a pretty great black-red aggro deck. Drafted well for the most part, but also opened pretty well. And then played pretty mediocre, but really got carried by the power level of the deck. And that is certainly a way to win some games of draft. So we are 7-2-1. We got to play above the maximum number of games in this draft. We got to play 10 games total because Arena went a little funky there. And that's another aspect of getting lucky today. That one game that Arena went funky and gave us a tie was more likely to be a loss than a win. Again, not a guaranteed loss, but still, we were more likely to lose than win that game. So we could have just been, well, we would have been like 5-3, I think, if we had a loss instead of a tie in here in the end. But we managed to scrape on by, as narrowly avoiding death as possible, to get to the 7-2 max prize out run. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video and you're interested in seeing more like it, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.